Hello everyone, welcome to the No Name Vanguard channel, and today I'll be bringing you a premium Revenger deck profile. I tried to put in as much Revengers as I could because Solemn Vanguard is a coward and he never did a full Revenger deck profile, even though he could probably beat my ass in Vanguard. So starting with our grade 3s, we're going to run 4 more Dread Phantom. It gives you force markers, 13k base, which is nice and premium. Helps you deal with rush a little bit, I guess. Especially if you get a damage trigger. Other than that, he doesn't do all that much. For the most part, he's just stride fodder, where you just sit on him until you get the other grade 3 that you run. Next grade 3 is 3 of Revenger Phantom Blaster Abyss, because Legion is funny, and that's really the only reason why I built this, along with the new stride. I say new, but it's been like a couple months, so it's pretty old. And pretty much his skill is when he Legions, counterblast 2 at the end of the battle. He attacked, retired 3 Revenger rear guards, and then he restands. Really good with Force 1, because you get 10k power for each Vanguard, so that's 20k for each Force marker. But in my experience, going Force 2 is better, since you want to maximize how much damage you're able to do in one turn, I suppose. And you're never going to get the guard stripped off for the grade 4 stride that we have that just copies the Vanguard skill. 2 of the Legion may outrun 3 if I had space, but yeah, it's 9k, it doesn't do much. You almost never use its rear guard skill just because you don't have enough CB. You can always send it back with the Legion if you heal it out from damage. There's no real reason to run more, I guess. You can run 3 if you want, but I just run 2. Next is 4 Masquerade, because check top 7, get a Mordred or a Blaster Dark, and it just helps filter through the deck. Helps your grade 2 game a little bit, because this deck is really lacks the early game, but it is funny later on in the late game. Then 3 Blaster Darts, so you can actually do something on Mordred. You can spam Force 1 markers, or if you're stuck on Mordred, you can just go with a new stride and then try to bash face that way. That's pretty much the only reason why he's here. 2 mana, again, really good when she's placed on rear, Van or rear. She gets to call a Revenger grade 1, and then she puts on bottom of the deck at the end of the turn. She's really good, although her 8k base does hurt making power lines, but she's just there to give you more fodder for the Legion to retire. If I had more space, I would run more than 2, but I want fucking Mordred to do something other than provide force markers, so I had to make room for regular Blaster Dark. The 3 of the new Dorant, just because the grade 1 Dorant was fine, but it just didn't do much in the early game, and you get a lot of soul with this deck, so might as well use it somehow. I wish there was more Revenger cards that uses soul instead of CB, but they haven't been retrained that much, so it's fine, I suppose. 20k attacker, and you draw a card if Claudius is on your rear guard, so it's okay. I wish we had more grade 2s that were retrained. One Blaster Dark Revenger, not SP sadly, because you can countercharge with him, and he's another Revenger that you can retire, so. Or a Claudius, because he's because he has 10k shield and he's an okay right target. He's just there for the Counterblast 1 Solin countercharge, so it's a free draw. But again, this deck has a lot of problems with Counterblast denial and just not having enough. So if he does come up, if you have CB, you can use him. Then 3 Mar, I ran 2, but then I'd always get it in damage, so the third one is just to make sure there's at least one in deck. Gets you your ultimate stride fodder if you ever go into that. I don't even run ultimate stride, so he's just there for getting your stride fodder and deck thinning. Good call target with mana, so yeah. One of the old Dorans, because we run 1 Blaster Dark Revenger, so why not? 5k shield. Blaster Dark has to be called in the same column for his counter charge effect. And then 3 Masquerade. He gets you back your Blaster Darks. He's an 11k booster. 10k shield, which is also, again, nice in this deck because you don't get much shield power outside of triggers. Another retired target. All the Revengers are pretty much just retired targets for the grade 3 Legion, and that's pretty much their entire purpose. So if you go into Mordred and go into the new strat, you can use him to spam more force markers. Crisis Revenger Fritz, just because drawing 1 and then getting a quick shield on going second is pretty fucking nice, so might as well. Then for triggers, we're running 1 Howl Owl just because this deck doesn't draw that much, and then 4 Dark Shield Macular, draw PGs, right? It's free PG, why not? And then 3 of the Stride Fodder crit, because if you run out of grade 3s to search from Var skill, then you could just use this when you get it in your drive checks, if you do. 4 the Revenger crit, and then 4 Abyss Healer. I would run 1 of the counter charge or soul charge heal. That's a Revenger, but you don't want to bind your heal triggers since you usually want to send them back in deck after using them for G guards, so you can heal more in the late game. Also 20k shields are nice in the early game. Onto the G zone we are running. Three of the Premium Collection 2020 Stride. This copies the Vanguard skill, and then GB3 you can when your opponent has to guard from hand, you have to call through your More. It doesn't go off usually because you're retiring a lot, so unless if you're on Mordred, that's the only way you're going to get it off. Or even if you get the guard restrict off, some people just no guard the first attack and then PG the second one because they know you're retiring your 3 of your units. So it's funny, that's all I can say. 2 Luard because it's two free cards to field, and then you can draw a bunch, especially if you call Plautus and Dorant off of his skill. Good first stride, since I don't usually go into the Premium Collection 20 Chainranker stride all that much when it comes to getting first stride, because I want hand, and sometimes I don't get the Legion to hand. One of the Revenger stride, just to be flip farter, really, you don't really use them, especially in this deck, because it's not too good. But it is there to be another Revenger, I suppose. Or guys are doomed, and then one regular Orgeyser. I don't go into this often, and if I do, I don't get any grade 1s in my reveals because I don't run that many. This is not a ritual deck, obviously. But 2 cards to hand and 2 retires is pretty nice. 2 possible retires. 1 more Festa, just because if you have nothing else to go into, this is always a good stride no matter what. Ritual 10, your opponent has to guard with 2 or more cards from their hand, and your front row gets 15k and a crit. It's a lot better than the ultimate stride, plus the ultimate stride or Ultima is just expensive and I don't want to buy it. Two of the Phantom Blaster Diablo. I don't go into this much because I just go for the Chainranker play and Legion again, so I can keep sending triggers back in deck and getting 6 drive checks per turn. So I usually use them as flip fodder. If you're playing against something like, I guess, Grand Blue, which usually retires their rear guards, you can steal a win that way. Especially if you've been trying to damage deny them with Force 2, which just makes it 3 crit. So you can go into it if you really need to, but if you're a funny man, you go for the Legion play every time. Yeah. 1 Jelly Dough, just because sometimes you have extra grade 1 rear guards in the back after your turn, and you could just use them for a free draw. Not much shield power in your grade 1 since you run a lot of the old ones, so it's pain. 1 Desmo if you want to protect one of your rear guards. It can be Blaster Dark or any Revenger, really. This is here just because I couldn't find something else to fill this slot. I was missing 1 card in my G zone, so I just put this in. Two Plot Acre because 25k shields are nice, especially against matchups that just poke a lot with rear guards, and you don't get a damage trigger, I guess. One Dark Veil because if you're against a matchup where they have very, very high numbers, you're going to want to use this instead of trying to use your entire hand to guard 1 attack. you can usually get it to high numbers because by the time you use it, I expect that you've used Legion a couple times, and if you have a bunch of grade 1s and drop some that way from your retire skill, then a bunch of force 1 markers just cause, and then 2 force 2s because I almost never reride Mordred, so that's pretty much it. I wish this deck was more viable. This is definitely a casual build, but this channel is not meant for good builds. It's meant for funny builds more so. And if I was trying to make an actually good build, I wouldn't be playing Legion. Even in a Glendios deck I was building, I was considering putting in Blaster Joker just because I'm like, aha, yeah, Legion, it's funny. But yeah, that was this really bad semi-pure Avenger deck profile. You can build it, it's expensive, as with Shadow Paladin always. But if you do decide to, tell me how it goes, because I want to know how well it works for other people. This deck is paid when you're not able to draw into the Legion Grade 3. Alright, bye.